Tonight's piece will be a nonfiction piece. It's the title essay from a collection of essays that I'm working on for my thesis at UCF. And it's called Stories I Told Myself. Sunday night, the majestic chimes of Big Ben, the familiar theme song, the host in a British accent calling out, "This is Rock Over London." I adjusted the radio's volume and climbed into a bath I ran purposefully too hot. The sting of the water was exhilarating. Rock Over London played 2 hours of popular music from the United Kingdom. The show is a harbinger both of time spent in fantasizing about a life outside of middle-class suburbia and the end of another weekend, and with that, the return to school the next day. The heat and steam from the bath calmed me, put me in almost a hallucinatory state. I lay back and stared up at the one frosted window that looked out over townhouse rooftops. My mind wandered. I'll move to London after graduation. I will tour royal palaces and gardens and shop at Harrods and get an adorable little flat with, yes, the man I love. I could live my life and wouldn't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. I finally began to acknowledge what it was I was really feeling. I told no one. My boyfriend will be Miles. Our flat will be decorated by Laura Ashley, very British, lots of floral prints and tassels. We'll have French doors that go out onto a small patio and garden. There we will have afternoon tea and talk about the lives we left behind. He will look like George Michael and I will be in heaven. I was a 16-year-old boy growing up in Salinas, California, a city of 150,000 people, famous for its agriculture and the annual California Rodeo, a week-long festival of cowboys and country music and cattle roping. I was a 16-year-old boy who watched shows like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Style with Elsa Clench, and Dynasty. They were all about the life I wanted to live, that we all wanted to live in the 1980s. We aspired to lives of luxury, of excess, of glamour. I was a 16-year-old boy who found other boys attractive. I was an only child who kept everything inside. At the time, there were few, if any, places to connect with other young gay people. Gay rights and marriage equality weren't part of the national dialogue. Instead, the only time I saw something gay on TV was a brief mention of the San Francisco Pride Parade each June. And one day when my parents and I visited my grandparents, just such coverage came on the news. My grandmother, poised in her lazy boy recliner with yarn and crochet hook in her hands and glasses perched low on her nose, looked up. I watched the television closely to catch details of shirtless men dancing in the back of flatbed trucks and drag queens marching in high heels down Market Street. In her deliberate Missourian drawl, Grandma spoke up. "I just don't get it. That's unnatural what they're doing. They all just look ridiculous." Silence hung in the air. My father walked into the kitchen. My mother buried her face in a magazine. Grandma went back to crocheting her current lace doily project. And I stared at the television without distraction, trying to soak in everything I could from the news report, the images of the fun day people were having in a city just a few hours away. And then I heard, "In other news tonight," and the moment was gone. As the bathwater began to cool, I drained some out, then refilled the tub with only hot water to bring it back to the point at which it would give me that subtle sting, that point when I could lift my leg out of the water and distinguish between the cool flesh that rested above it and the poached flesh below. Miles would talk like the radio host and have a British accent. He would bring me flowers every Friday when he got home from work. We would go to the pub on the corner for dinner and meet friends, then walk back home holding hands, laughing, a little drunk. My best friend Jeremy was tall and slender with sandy blonde hair, sun-kissed from afternoons practicing for the golf team. We met when we were sophomores. I was the class vice president and he hosted the homecoming float construction party at his house. I was a little nervous but smiled at him and thanked him for hosting the group who assembled to build the homecoming float, which was really a diorama on the back of a flatbed truck that would be driven through the football field at halftime. "Maybe if we put the tape here, it won't show so much," Jeremy suggested as he and I worked together on a part of the float. He sat close to me while we worked. "Well, that's a great idea," I affirmed. "Hey, you like going to movies? We should check out a movie sometime if you're game." "Sure, sounds good, man." As the day passed, I thought of little else but sitting close to him in a dimly lit movie theater, brief contact made on a shared armrest. Our float, "We built this city on rock and roll," was a conglomeration of boxes taped together, covered in aluminum foil, and peppered with small yellow rectangles cut out of construction paper to resemble windows. A stuffed gorilla from Jeremy's bedroom hung precariously from the top of the tallest building, and we had a battery-powered cassette tape player that broadcasted the anthem by Starship to passers-by. "You guys, that was awesome," Jeremy rallied the group. "Thanks, everybody. Great work today," I echoed. I looked over at Jeremy, and he smiled back. Jeremy and I began to spend more time together, and we would, as many teenagers do, sleep over at each other's homes. The first time I slept at his house, we opened up the sofa bed in the living room and put 2 sleeping bags on top of it. While I slept in shorts and a t-shirt, covering up what parts of my body I could, he wore a pair of workout shorts and slept shirtless. "How are your classes going?" I asked. "Pretty good. Matt's kicking my butt. Thank God I have golf." "You're so committed to it. That's awesome." "Yeah, and speaking of commitment, will this be the moment he will ask me if I want to be his boyfriend?" "Go on," I encouraged. "So you know Amy and I have been seeing each other for a while?" "Yes." "I think I'm going to ask her to be my girlfriend." "Now, why would you want to do something like that?" "Oh, that's great." I tried to pull off a convincing smile. "Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it." "Hey, I'm getting kind of sleepy. Shall we call it a night?" I asked. He turned off the end table lamp, revealing his toned back and shoulders, and I looked as long as I could, admiring his strength until the room went dark. The next morning, I woke up before Jeremy did. I lay there listening to his steady, deliberate breaths. I kept my eyes closed, pretending I was still asleep. Still, only streetlight came through the thin draperies, and acting like I was doing it unknowingly in my slumber, I rolled over to be closer to him. And while my head was not on his shoulder, and we were separated by the sleeping bags that entombed us, I was still close to him, now feeling his breath on the side of my face. What if we had more mornings like this? Would he still want to be with Amy after all? Once we graduate, couldn't we move to San Francisco, perhaps? I could ride on the road and travel with him on his professional golf tours. We could be so happy if we just got out of this farm town to find our place in the world. And waking up every morning with him would be heaven, wouldn't it? "You awake?" he whispered. What? I turned my head toward him, trying to appear in a dream state. I realized just how close I was to him. He hadn't slipped away, even an inch, and his comfort in being so close to me helped me relax. "You sleep okay?" "Oh, sure, it's peaceful out here. I live across the street from Highway 101, remember?" I liked the background noise at home, but the steady rhythm of his breath was much better company in the darkness. "I know it's a couple years away, but have you thought about what you're going to do after graduation?" "I'm going to college to become a CPA, make lots of money, and live in a big city. I'll wear nice clothes and eat in fancy restaurants." "Wow, you have thought about it." "I guess I have. What about you?" "You know how much I love to golf. I want to make that my career." "Well, I'm sure you'll be great at it. You're always so disciplined and committed to practicing." I was trying to compliment him without being too sappy, too gay. "I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry. How about some breakfast?" Reluctantly, I agreed. I could have laid on that sofa bed all day, each of us sealed in our sleeping bags, effortless conversation flowing so freely. As he sat up, his shirtless torso towered over me. He hesitated and stretched, yawned, looked out the window to the front yard. Was this what he usually did when he climbed out of bed? Was he teasing me? My eyes traveled from his waist to his neck. His body was toned and firm. It was perfect compared to my stockier build. He stood up, stretched again to show the silhouette of his morning erection in his athletic shorts. He put on a t-shirt he had tossed on a nearby chair the night before, walked into the bathroom down the hall and shut the door. I rolled over and put my head on his pillow, closed my eyes, and took deep breaths of his scent marked in feathers and cotton. I took another deep breath and pulled the pillow close to my face, almost smothering myself. Click, the bathroom door opened, and I quickly retreated to my side of the sofa once again, out of balance, the other side now feeling so empty. "Eggs or pancakes?" he called from the kitchen. "Which is easier? Both sound good." We are both out of college, and he is home from a golf tour. It's nice to have him home in San Francisco. He cooks breakfast for me, the smell of bacon, a divine pleasure. I get up and sit at the table when he calls, "Breakfast is ready." "It's so good to have you home," I tell him, and he knows that also means it's nice to have him in bed with me again. I went with pancakes. I've got a couple ready for you, even have sausage on the side. Well, this is quite a way to wake up in the country. Only the best for you, my friend. I sat reading news headlines about the rising number of young people who killed themselves because they couldn't endure persistent bullying, because they thought they weren't normal, because they were told they were going to hell, because the pain of dying was less than the pain of living, amidst the constant harassment, the persistent judgment, the torment from others for loving someone of the same gender. How did I do it? How did I make it out alive? I told myself stories to fashion life as I hoped it would be one day. I fed myself the inspiration of fantasy to believe there was more waiting. Fantasy led to the belief in possibility, and I knew it was possible that my secrets, my ever-changing moods, my circumstances could all change. They could, and they would. But until they did, the stories kept me going. I crafted a different life in my imagination, and when real life became too complicated, when the pain of keeping secrets became too much of a burden, I looked forward to having tea with Miles in London or breakfast with Jeremy in San Francisco. The future looked promising if I could get through the present. I am here because of the stories I told myself. Thank you.